My name is Wade Parker. I'm 57 years old, and I used to believe that 22 years of marriage and building something real with your hands was enough to keep a woman loyal. I was dead wrong. For the past 25 years, I've run Parker's Machine Shop here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Started with nothing but a toolbox and a dream, built it into the go-to place for farm equipment repair in 3 counties. I've worked 60, 70-hour weeks, hands black with grease, back aching from hunching over combines and tractors that keep this community fed. Every callus on my hands, every dollar in the bank account, every reputation built in this tight-knit farming community. It was all for Linda and the life we were building together. We met when she was working as a secretary at Morrison Real Estate downtown. Pretty blonde thing, 8 years younger than me, with a laugh that could light up the whole room. I was 35 and rough around the edges, but Linda saw something in me worth betting on. We married after dating 2 years, bought this ranch-style house on 5 acres just outside town. Perfect spot. Big enough for a serious garage workshop, close enough to town that Linda could still see her friends. Linda quit working about 8 years into our marriage. "You make plenty for both of us," she'd said, kissing my forehead as I paid the monthly bills. "Let me take care of everything else." And she did. While I kept the community's machinery running, Linda kept our life running. Clean house, home-cooked meals that would make a restaurant chef jealous, weekend trips to the county fair where she'd beam with pride when neighbors complimented my work. Those quiet evening talks on the back porch with a couple of cold beers, watching the sun set over the cornfields while she'd curl up next to me in that old porch swing I'd built with my own hands. For years, I thought I was one of those lucky bastards who'd found the real deal. Marriage that ran like a well-oiled machine, every part working in perfect harmony. I'd come home bone-tired from a 12-hour day wrestling with a busted thresher, clothes soaked in sweat and motor oil, and Linda would be waiting with dinner warm and a cold beer already open. Her arms would wrap around me from behind while I washed the grease from my hands at the kitchen sink, her soft body pressing against my back with a warmth that melted away every ache from the day. "How's my hard-working man?" she'd whisper in my ear, and I'd turn around to find her smiling up at me like I was something special, not just the guy who fixed broken machinery, but her hero coming home from battle. Those homecoming embraces were my reward for every difficult customer, every piece of stubborn equipment that fought me tooth and nail, every long day spent building our future together. The intimacy we shared felt genuine, passionate. Linda would lead me upstairs before I could even finish my beer, her hands already working at my shirt buttons, eager and hungry for my touch. In our bedroom, she was everything a man could want, responsive, enthusiastic, making it clear that she needed me as much as I needed her. We'd lie there afterward, her head on my chest, talking about our dreams. Maybe taking a vacation to the Black Hills, possibly buying that extra 10 acres next door to expand the workshop, growing old together in the house we'd built into a home. That changed about 14 months ago. The first time Linda turned away from my touch, I chalked it up to a bad day. Everyone has them. "Just tired, honey," she mumbled, rolling to face the wall like she was trying to put distance between us. Fair enough. Even the best machines need maintenance breaks. The second time, I wondered if something was eating at her. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" I asked, stroking her hair the way I had for 22 years. "Just not feeling well," she replied, though she'd spent the day at home while I'd been fighting a seized hydraulic pump since dawn. By the third rejection, a pattern was forming that made my gut twist like I'd swallowed broken glass. Every advance I made was met with the same response. "Not tonight, Wade. Maybe tomorrow." But tomorrow kept getting pushed back like a parts order that never arrives. The woman who used to greet me at the door with hungry kisses now seemed relieved when I headed to the shop early or stayed late with a particularly stubborn piece of equipment. I found myself lying awake nights watching Linda sleep in the blue darkness of our bedroom. 22 years of marriage, and suddenly, I was studying her face like a diagnostic manual for a machine I'd never seen before, searching for the woman who used to hang on my every word when I told her about my day. Her breathing was peaceful, innocent, but something fundamental had shifted in the mechanisms of our marriage. I told myself it was just a rough patch. Hell, maybe she was going through the change. Women her age dealt with all sorts of hormonal issues that could affect their interest in intimacy. Maybe the isolation of rural life was finally getting to her after all these years. Maybe my long hours, my dedication to building our security, had worn thin her patience. Marriages were like complex machinery. Sometimes they needed adjustments, fine-tuning, a complete overhaul of the parts that weren't working properly anymore. Then came the agricultural equipment show in Des Moines. As I loaded my truck the night before, planned to be gone 3 days, checking out new diagnostic equipment and meeting with parts suppliers who could keep my shop competitive, I noticed something different about Linda. She was humming. Hadn't heard that sound in months, maybe longer. She moved around our bedroom with a lightness I hadn't seen in weeks, folding my clothes with what looked almost like cheerful efficiency. Her whole demeanor had changed from the distant, distracted woman she'd become to something approaching her old self. "You seem in a good mood," I commented, zipping up my tool bag, genuinely pleased to see her spirits lift. The humming stopped like I'd thrown a kill switch. Linda's shoulders went stiff, her hands freezing over the shirt she was folding. "Do I?" she responded, voice suddenly defensive, guarded. "Just glad to get caught up on laundry." But as I packed my shirts, I caught her checking her reflection in the dresser mirror, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. The kind of smile a woman gets when she's anticipating something special. She wasn't happy about the damn laundry. She was happy about something else entirely, and for the first time in our marriage, it had nothing to do with me. The realization hit like a wrench to the skull. Linda seemed downright eager for me to leave for Des Moines. The progression was subtle at first, easy to miss if you weren't trained to spot the early warning signs of mechanical failure. But 25 years of diagnosing problems teaches you to notice patterns, identify the symptoms before a small issue becomes a catastrophic breakdown. I never thought I'd be applying those same analytical skills to my marriage, treating it like a piece of machinery that needed troubleshooting. 1 month of steady decline, every attempt at physical connection rebuffed with increasingly thin excuses. "I have a headache," she'd sigh, turning away from me in bed. "Didn't sleep well last night," she'd explain, pulling the covers up like armor. "Too full from dinner," she'd complain, creating distance between us that felt wider than the whole Iowa countryside. "Can we just cuddle instead?" she'd suggest, knowing full well we both understood what that meant. No intimacy, just the pretense of closeness. Meanwhile, other changes were accumulating like metal shavings around a grinding wheel, small signs that individually meant nothing, but together painted a picture I didn't want to see. Linda joined that new fitness center in town, something she'd shown zero interest in during our entire marriage. "Just want to feel good about myself again," she explained when I expressed surprise. Reasonable enough explanation, but it didn't account for the new underwear I discovered while doing laundry one weekend. Fancy, expensive pieces in colors she'd never worn before. Black lace, deep red silk, the kind of lingerie a woman buys when she wants to make an impression. Not the practical cotton stuff she'd been wearing for years, but the kind of intimate apparel that costs more than most people spend on a week's groceries. When I held up a particularly elaborate bra, she blushed and snatched it away. "I just wanted something nice for myself," she said, but her eyes wouldn't meet mine. Then came the phone calls. Linda had always been social. She had her sister Carol down in Kansas City, a few friends from her old job, neighbors she'd chat with over coffee. But suddenly, her phone was buzzing constantly, lighting up with notifications at all hours. She'd glance at the screen with an expression I'd never seen before, anticipation mixed with something that looked almost like guilt. She'd excuse herself to the kitchen or bathroom, taking these calls in private, and return 15 minutes later with flushed cheeks and bright eyes, looking like she'd just received the best news of her life. "Who was that?" I'd ask casually, not wanting to seem suspicious but unable to ignore the obvious change in her behavior. "Oh, just Carol," she'd say, referring to her sister, or an old friend from high school. "We're reconnecting through Facebook. You know how it is with social media? People find you after all these years." The explanations were smooth, practiced, but something about them felt rehearsed, like lines from a play she'd memorized. One evening, I walked into our home office and found Linda rapidly closing her laptop, her fingers flying over the keyboard with guilty haste. The reaction she gave, that sharp intake of breath, the way she spun around like she'd been caught stealing, didn't match someone who was browsing recipes or checking the weather forecast. "Sorry," she laughed, but it sounded forced, artificial. "I was watching silly cat videos on YouTube. Didn't want you to think I was wasting time online." Linda had never apologized for watching cat videos before. Hell, she used to call me over to see the funny ones, laughing so hard she'd get tears in her eyes while some tabby fell off a counter or chased its own tail. The phone calls from Des Moines became torture sessions designed to test my sanity. I'd call from the hotel room every night, trying to maintain our connection across the miles, the way we'd done for years. "How was your day, sweetheart?" I'd ask, genuinely wanting to hear about her activities, her thoughts, anything that would help me understand what was happening to us. "Fine, normal. Same old stuff," she'd respond, her voice clipped and distracted like she had somewhere else to be, someone else to talk to. The warmth that used to flow between us over the phone had evaporated completely. "I miss you," I'd tell her, trying to bridge the growing gap with the same words that used to make her voice soften with affection. "The garbage disposal is making that grinding noise again," she'd deflect, steering the conversation toward mundane household issues. "Can you look at it when you get back?" Everything became about repairs, maintenance, problems that needed fixing when I returned. Anything to avoid talking about us, about her feelings, about the distance growing between us like rust spreading through good metal. Sometimes I'd hear things in the background that didn't add up with her explanations. Jazz music playing softly, though Linda had always preferred country music, George Strait, Reba McEntire, songs about heartbreak and small-town life, the sound of a television show I didn't recognize, dialogue from what sounded like an expensive cable channel we didn't have. Once I could have sworn I heard a male voice murmur something in the background, followed by Linda's sharp shh, the kind of sound you make when you're trying to quiet someone who shouldn't be there. "Is someone there with you?" I asked, my hand tightening around the hotel phone until my knuckles went white. "Just the television," she answered immediately. Too fast, too defensive, like she'd been prepared for that exact question. "You know how loud the neighbors get sometimes? Sound carries through these old walls." But we lived on 5 acres. Our nearest neighbor was a quarter-mile away, and old Harold Peterson was deaf as a fence post besides. Sound didn't carry from his house to ours, not unless he was running a combine harvester in his living room. The breaking point came when I was organizing receipts for tax season, a ritual I'd been handling for 22 years, methodically sorting through the paper trail of our life together. Mixed in with my business expenses was one that stopped me cold, made my heart pound like a diesel engine with a thrown rod. Holiday Inn Express, 2 nights at $180 each, dated during my last trip to the equipment show in Des Moines. Linda had never mentioned leaving home during that trip. Never said a word about going anywhere, visiting anyone, needing to get away from our house for any reason. The receipt was in her handwriting on the back. Business trip accommodation, like she was trying to justify it as a legitimate expense. That night, I confronted her. Not aggressively, not accusingly, but with the careful precision I used when diagnosing a complex mechanical problem. "Did you stay at the Holiday Inn while I was in Des Moines?" I asked, holding the receipt between us like evidence in a court case. Linda's eyes narrowed for just a split second before she composed her features into an expression of mild surprise. "Oh yeah, Carol came up for a visit. We made a girls' weekend of it, you know? Got a hotel room downtown, did some shopping, went to that new spa everyone's talking about." The explanation rolled off her tongue smooth as motor oil, well-rehearsed and delivered with just the right amount of casual detail. "Carol was here?" I pressed, my engineering mind automatically checking the logic of her story. "She didn't mention that when I talked to her last week." Linda's pause was barely perceptible, but I caught it, the microsecond of panic before she recovered. "It was last minute," she explained, voice carefully controlled. "She called Friday afternoon, said she needed to get away from her husband for a while. You know how Tony can be when he's drinking." "And you took her to the Holiday Inn instead of having her stay here?" The question hung in the air like smoke from an overheated engine, impossible to ignore. Our house had a perfectly good guest room, comfortable bed, everything Carol would need for a visit. Why spend $360 on a hotel when family could stay for free? Linda's face transformed then, careful neutrality giving way to sudden anger like a pressure valve releasing steam. "What is this, an interrogation?" she snapped, color rising in her cheeks. "Since when do I need to account for every dollar I spend when you're out of town playing with farm equipment? I work hard taking care of this house, taking care of you, and if I want to treat my sister to a nice weekend, I'll damn well do it." Her defensiveness confirmed what my gut had been screaming for weeks. The woman I'd trusted for 22 years, the woman I'd built my life around, was lying to my face, and she was doing a piss-poor job of it, like an apprentice mechanic trying to explain why the engine he was supposed to fix was now in pieces on the floor. 3 days later, my phone rang as I was loading diagnostic equipment into the truck for another trip to Des Moines. Different supplier this time, newer technology that could help me stay competitive with the larger shops in Cedar Falls and Waterloo. It was Jim Patterson from Patterson Agricultural Supply, apologizing profusely for the short notice. "Wade, I'm really sorry, but we've had a family emergency," Jim explained, his voice heavy with genuine regret. "My dad had a heart attack this morning. They've got him stable, but I need to be at the hospital. Could we possibly reschedule for next month?" I stood there in my shop, surrounded by the familiar smells of motor oil and metal shavings, contemplating my options while Jim apologized again for the inconvenience. I could drive down to Des Moines anyway, try to set up meetings with other suppliers, make the trip worthwhile. I could use the time to visit that new parts warehouse in Iowa City everyone was talking about. I could check out the equipment auction in Ames that I'd been meaning to attend. Or I could go home early and surprise my wife. For the first time in our marriage, Linda wouldn't know when to expect me. I'd catch her completely off guard, see her natural reaction without the carefully constructed mask she'd been wearing lately. Maybe I'd find her baking cookies, maybe organizing photos, maybe having a perfectly innocent conversation with her sister Carol. My gut, the same instinct that had saved me from countless bad business deals and dangerous mechanical situations over the years, was screaming that Linda's expression would be anything but pleased when I walked through that door unannounced. The BMW wasn't supposed to be there. I sat in my truck at the end of our gravel driveway, engine off, staring at the unfamiliar silver sedan parked where my wife usually left her Honda Civic. Not a neighbor's vehicle. I knew every car, truck, and tractor in a 5-mile radius. Not a service vehicle, no business logo on the side, no ladder rack or toolboxes. Just a sleek, expensive car with Illinois plates that had no business being at my house on a Wednesday afternoon. My stomach clenched like I'd swallowed a handful of rusty bolts. Part of me wanted to give Linda the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she had a visitor. Maybe Carol had driven up from Kansas City in a rental car. Maybe there was a perfectly reasonable explanation for the BMW sitting in our driveway like a foreign invader. But another part of me, the part that had been cataloging warning signs for months, knew exactly what I was looking at. Evidence. Confirmation of suspicions I'd been trying to suppress, trying to rationalize away, trying to explain as anything other than what they obviously were. I approached my own front door like I was defusing a bomb, key trembling slightly in my hand, despite 25 years of steady fingers working on delicate machinery. The house felt different the moment I stepped inside, charged with an unfamiliar energy that made the hair on my arms stand up. The air smelled different. Expensive cologne I didn't recognize mixing with Linda's perfume like competing engine oils that would destroy a motor if you mixed them together. Then I heard it. From our bedroom came the unmistakable sounds that no husband should ever have to hear in his own home. Sounds that turned my 22 years of marriage into a lie with every rhythmic thump against the wall. Rhythmic movement. The headboard I'd assembled myself with my own hands striking the wall in a steady cadence that spoke of passion, urgency, desperate need. Linda's voice, higher and more urgent than I'd heard in months, crying out in pleasure like she was experiencing something she'd been denied, something she'd been craving. "Oh God, yes, Shane, right there, don't stop," she moaned, her voice carrying through the house like a knife through my chest, each word more devastating than the last. My wife of 22 years was calling out another man's name in our bed, in our bedroom, in the house I'd worked 70-hour weeks to pay for. A man's voice responding, words indistinct but tone unmistakably satisfied, confident, possessive. The sound of a younger man claiming what he thought was his, taking what I'd spent 2 decades building, destroying what I'd sacrificed everything to create. I stood frozen in my own entryway, 22 years of marriage collapsing around me like a building with its foundation ripped out by heavy machinery. Everything I'd believed about my life, my wife, my marriage, my future, all of it crumbling into debris that would have to be cleared away before anything new could be built. I had been replaced, discarded like a worn-out part that no longer served its function. Made a fool of in my own home while I was out earning the money that paid for the bed they were defiling, the house they were using as their private hotel, the life they were destroying with every thrust, every moan, every gasping breath of stolen pleasure. Something cold and methodical settled over me then, like the calm that comes when you realize a machine is beyond repair and needs to be completely torn down, stripped to its essential components, rebuilt from the ground up with better parts and improved engineering. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a problem that required a solution, a situation that demanded the same systematic approach I'd use on a complex mechanical failure. The difference was that this time I wouldn't be fixing what was broken. I'd be scrapping it entirely and building something new from the salvageable pieces. I set down my keys silently and moved toward our bedroom with the deliberate precision of a man who'd made his decision. Each step felt calculated, my mind already racing ahead to engineer the perfect solution to this problem. The door wasn't fully closed, careless, sloppy, like they thought they had all the time in the world to use my house as their personal playground. Through the gap, I could see everything I needed to see. Linda, my wife of 22 years, naked and writhing with a man I didn't recognize. Younger than me, probably mid-30s, with the soft build of someone who'd never done a day of real physical labor. Dark hair, expensive watch, the kind of smooth hands that had never been cut by metal shavings or burned by welding sparks. His hands were gripping Linda's hips like he owned them, and she was responding to his touch with an enthusiasm she hadn't shown me in over a year. I didn't make a sound. Didn't burst through the door in a jealous rage like some hot-headed kid who couldn't control his emotions. Instead, I backed away silently and headed for my workshop. I had planning to do, and 25 years of solving complex problems had taught me that the best solutions required careful preparation. First stop was my gun safe in the corner of the shop. The Remington 700 I used for deer hunting seemed appropriate for the occasion. Not to kill anyone, because despite what they'd done to me, I'm not a violent man by nature. But power dynamics require leverage, and I needed to ensure complete compliance with what would come next. I loaded a single round into the chamber and carried the rifle back to the house. Then I retrieved my phone and opened the voice recorder app. Whatever happened next, I would have documentation, evidence, insurance against any lies they might try to tell later. I positioned myself in our living room, directly in the sight line of anyone coming down the stairs, and set the rifle across my lap where it would be immediately visible. I started the recording and waited with the patience of a man who'd spent decades coaxing life back into broken machinery. Time stretched like heated metal as I listened to them finish their business upstairs. Their passion subsided into murmurs and lazy laughter, the sound of two people who thought they were getting away with something. The shower ran briefly. Dresser drawers opened and closed. Normal domestic sounds that didn't belong to this stranger in my house. Sounds that represented the complete violation of everything I'd worked to build. "When did you say Wade gets back?" the male voice asked, clearer now, casual and unconcerned, like he was asking about the weather. "Not until Friday night," Linda answered, her voice light and carefree in a way that cut deeper than any knife. "His flight doesn't get in until after 8. We've got the whole evening to ourselves." "So we can use your bedroom again tomorrow?" he asked, anticipation evident in his tone, making plans for my house like it belonged to him. "All the time in the world," Linda assured him with that laugh I'd once thought was reserved for me alone. Footsteps approached the stairs. I adjusted my position slightly, ensuring the recording was still running, and prepared to show them exactly how wrong they were about having time. They were halfway down when they saw me. Linda froze first, one hand on the banister, her face draining of color so fast I thought she might collapse right there on my stairs. The man behind her, taller than me, wearing clothes that probably cost more than most people in Cedar Rapids make in a month, bumped into her back, not understanding why she'd suddenly stopped moving. "Babe, what's—" he began, then followed her horrified gaze to where I sat in my own living room, the rifle across my lap, clearly visible in the afternoon light, my phone recording everything on the side table. For 3 heartbeats, nobody moved. The only sound was the ticking of the grandfather clock Linda had insisted we buy at an antique shop years ago, back when we were building a life together instead of watching it get torn apart by betrayal. "Sit down," I said, my voice steady as a machinist's measuring tool. I gestured toward the sofa across from my chair. Linda's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. The man found his voice first. "Look, I don't know who you think you are, but," he started, his tone trying for authority but failing completely. "Shut up," I cut him off without raising my voice. "You'll speak when I ask you to speak. Both of you sit down. Now." They obeyed immediately, moving like they were walking through quicksand. Linda's eyes never left the rifle. Her boyfriend kept glancing between me and the front door, probably calculating his chances of making it to that BMW before I could stop him. I shifted slightly, making sure he understood that sudden movements would end very badly for everyone involved. "Wade," Linda finally whispered, her voice small and scared. "We need to talk about this." "We absolutely do," I agreed, nodding toward my phone. "And we're going to record every word for posterity. I want to make sure I remember every detail correctly when I'm telling this story to your family, your friends, and everyone else who needs to know what kind of woman you really are." What happened next was a masterclass in applied leverage, systematic information extraction, and the kind of cold-blooded problem-solving that had made my business successful for 25 years. "How long?" I asked Linda, my voice steady as a precision instrument. Her eyes darted to Shane, then back to me. "Wade, please." "How long?" I repeated, each word deliberate as a hammer strike. She swallowed hard. 14 months, she admitted, the timeline hitting me like a sledgehammer to the chest. Every business trip, every late-night call home, every "I miss you," while he was right there beside her. "Where'd you meet him?" I continued methodically. "The fitness center," she whispered. "And you?" I turned to Shane, who was sweating like an overheated engine. "What's your name, and what do you do?" "Shane Mitchell. I'm a sales manager for Midwest Insurance," he managed, trying to sound professional while sitting in another man's living room after being caught with his wife. "Well, Shane, you've been enjoying my hospitality for 14 months, sleeping in my bed, using my shower, screwing my wife while I paid the mortgage. Time to settle the bill." I nodded toward his phone. "Open your banking app. I want $35,000 transferred to my account. Consider it back rent." "You can't be serious," Shane protested, but his voice cracked. I adjusted my grip on the rifle. "Dead serious. You drive a BMW, wear expensive clothes, take my wife to hotels. You've got the money, and you're transferring it right now." Fear flickered across his face as he realized I wasn't bluffing. With trembling fingers, he opened his banking app and made the transfer. When he showed me the confirmation, I nodded. "Smart choice. Now get up." I moved faster than either expected. My fist connected with Shane's nose with a satisfying crunch, blood spraying across his shirt. "That's for touching my wife." Before he could recover, I drove my knee into his stomach and kicked his ribs. "And that's for doing it in my bed." Shane crawled toward the door, leaving blood drops on my carpet. "Your boyfriend just paid $35,000 to learn about respecting marriage," I told Linda as the door slammed behind him. By dawn, divorce papers were delivered by courier. Linda signed without resistance, her signature ensuring I kept everything: house, business, investments, reputation. She packed 2 suitcases and left for her sister's place in Kansas City, taking nothing but what she'd brought into our marriage 22 years ago. 6 months have passed since that Wednesday afternoon. The divorce was finalized in record time. Shane Mitchell disappeared completely. No police report was filed, since explaining why he was in my house would have exposed everything. Word travels fast in small towns. Linda's reputation unraveled as the story spread through Cedar Rapids like wildfire. The women who once invited her to book clubs now cross the street to avoid awkward conversations. I've become an object of grudging respect, the man who handled betrayal with cold precision rather than messy emotion. My business is stronger than ever. Customers respect a man who doesn't let himself be walked on. I've started seeing Ruth Henderson, who runs the hardware store downtown. She knows my story, respects how I handled it. At 54, she's a widow who understands that trust, once broken, must be earned again through actions, not words. The house feels different without Linda. Larger, cleaner, honest. I've replaced the blood-stained carpet, bought new sheets, rearranged furniture to erase every trace of their presence. Some evenings I sit with a beer, not mourning what I lost, but appreciating what I gained. Clarity, self-respect, and a clear understanding of human nature. The $35,000 sits untouched in a separate account. Taking it wasn't about money, it was about consequences, ensuring Shane felt the cost of his choices. Linda lost her marriage, her home, her reputation, her security net. That's justice served cold and complete. Some men are destroyed by betrayal. Others use it as education in the mechanics of respect and the true price of loyalty. I graduated with honors, kept my assets, my dignity, and my name clean. The man who left for Des Moines that morning was different, softer, more trusting. He died when he climbed those stairs. In his place stands someone who understands that respect isn't given, it's taken and maintained through strength. Some people mistake kindness for weakness, generosity for stupidity, and loyalty for a license to abuse. They operate under the assumption that good men will absorb unlimited punishment rather than fight back. that decent people would rather suffer in silence than demand justice. They're wrong. Dead wrong. And the cost of that miscalculation, as Linda and Shane learned, can be everything they thought they were entitled to take.